Energy is a currency because every thought, emotion, and action costs something, whether you are conscious of it or not. Just like money, energy is limited each day, and once it is spent, it cannot be recovered. The quality of your life is determined not by how much energy you have, but by how intentionally you invest it. Most people go broke energetically long before the day ends because they spend without awareness, reacting to everything instead of choosing what truly deserves their focus. Every distraction is a withdrawal from your potential. Complaints, arguments, comparison, and unnecessary explanation all drain energy without producing value. When energy is spent emotionally instead of productively, exhaustion sets in even if nothing meaningful has been accomplished. This is why some people feel tired despite inactivity, while others feel alive under pressure. Because one is leaking energy and the other is directing it. Energy multiplies when it is concentrated. When you focus on one objective, one skill, or one discipline at a time, energy compounds and produces momentum. Scattered attention weakens force, but directed attention creates power. The same effort, when focused, generates results that random action never can. Energy follows clarity, and clarity always increases effectiveness. Where you place your energy determines what grows in your life. If your energy goes toward fear, fear expands. If it goes toward discipline, discipline strengthens. If it goes toward learning, growth accelerates. Energy does not judge, it simply obeys direction. Whatever consistently receives your attention becomes dominant in your reality. Many people confuse business with productivity, not realizing that energy spent on the wrong activities creates motion without progress. Activity without intention is one of the fastest ways to waste energy. True productivity requires alignment where effort, purpose, and direction work together. When energy aligns with purpose, results feel lighter even when the work is demanding. Protecting your energy is an act of self-leadership. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters that determine where your energy is allowed to flow. Saying no to distractions is saying yes to progress. Every time you protect your focus, you preserve the currency needed to build something meaningful and lasting. Energy responds to discipline more than emotion. Motivation fluctuates, but disciplined energy compounds. When you commit to routines that strengthen your mind and habits that sharpen your execution, energy becomes reliable instead of reactive. This consistency turns effort into leverage and time into an ally rather than an enemy. Comparison is one of the most expensive ways to spend energy. Measuring your progress against others redirects energy away from improvement and into insecurity. Energy spent on comparison produces no return, only distraction. When attention returns inward, progress accelerates because energy is no longer divided. Silence is often the most profitable place to invest energy. Quiet focus preserves momentum and prevents unnecessary leakage through explanation or validation seeking. When energy is used to build instead of to announce, growth becomes efficient and confidence stabilizes internally rather than depending on response. Energy invested wisely creates freedom, while energy wasted creates pressure. The difference between stagnation and growth is rarely talent or opportunity, but how deliberately energy is spent each day, moment by moment, decision by decision. Focus is strategic because it determines the direction of your life before results ever appear. What you consistently give your attention to quietly shapes your habits, your identity, and your outcomes. When focus is scattered, effort becomes diluted and progress slows. But when focus is intentional, even small actions begin to carry weight. Strategy is simply deciding in advance where your energy belongs, and focus is the daily execution of that decision. Many people label focus as selfish because they misunderstand its purpose. Focusing on yourself does not mean ignoring others. It means becoming stable, capable, and disciplined enough to contribute at a higher level. You cannot pour from an empty mind or lead from a place of confusion. Personal alignment is not indulgence, it is preparation for greater responsibility and impact. Focus eliminates unnecessary emotional spending. When you stop reacting to everything around you, you regain control over your internal state. This control allows you to act with intention instead of impulse. Strategic focus creates calm under pressure because attention is no longer hijacked by noise, opinions, or temporary emotions. Every meaningful achievement is the result of sustained focus over time. Mastery does not come from occasional bursts of effort, but from repeated attention to the same standards and disciplines. Focus allows learning to deepen, skills to sharpen, and confidence to stabilize. Without focus, potential remains theoretical instead of practical. When focus is absent, people substitute motion for progress. They stay busy to feel productive while avoiding the discomfort of real growth. Strategic focus requires choosing depth over breadth and quality over quantity. It means committing to fewer priorities so that each one receives the attention necessary to produce results. Focus is an act of respect for your future self. It is a decision to delay short-term comfort in favor of long-term clarity. Every time you choose focus over distraction, you send a message to yourself about what matters most. Over time, these decisions compound into discipline, and discipline creates freedom. Strategic focus also creates boundaries. It clarifies what deserves a yes and what requires a no. Without boundaries, energy is constantly pulled in directions that do not align with purpose. Focus protects progress by limiting access to your time, attention, and emotional bandwidth. Focusing on yourself builds internal confidence that does not depend on validation. When your attention is on improvement rather than approval, growth becomes consistent. Confidence strengthens because it is earned through execution, not granted through applause or recognition. Focus trains the mind to stay present with difficulty instead of escaping it. Discomfort becomes a signal for growth rather than a reason to quit. This mental endurance allows challenges to be faced directly, turning obstacles into leverage rather than excuses. Strategic focus simplifies life by reducing unnecessary choices and emotional clutter. When priorities are clear, decisions become easier and actions become cleaner. Progress accelerates not because life becomes easier, but because attention is no longer divided. Discipline replaces motivation because motivation is emotional and inconsistent, while discipline is structured and reliable. Motivation depends on mood, energy levels, and external circumstances, but discipline operates regardless of how you feel. When discipline is in place, action becomes automatic rather than negotiable. This removes the need to wait for inspiration before moving forward. Motivation often shows up after results begin, not before. Discipline is what creates the conditions for progress, even when enthusiasm is absent. By acting first and allowing feelings to catch up later, discipline keeps momentum alive. This is why disciplined individuals continue to grow during periods when others stall or quit. Discipline is the decision made once that removes the need to decide again. When standards are set in advance, excuses lose their power. You no longer debate whether to act, you simply execute. This consistency compounds over time, turning ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. Relying on motivation creates cycles of intensity followed by inactivity. Discipline creates rhythm and stability. Instead of extreme highs and lows, progress becomes steady and predictable. This steady pace may feel slower at first, but it outperforms emotional bursts that fade quickly. Discipline builds identity. Each disciplined action reinforces the belief that you are someone who follows through. Over time, this self-trust becomes a powerful internal driver. When you trust yourself to act, confidence strengthens without needing external encouragement. When challenges arise, motivation often disappears first. Discipline remains because it is rooted in commitment rather than comfort. This allows progress to continue through resistance, fatigue, and uncertainty. Discipline turns obstacles into part of the process instead of reasons to stop. Discipline simplifies life by reducing emotional decision-making. When habits are established, energy is conserved for execution rather than debate. This mental efficiency frees focus for improvement and problem-solving rather than self-negotiation. Motivation seeks excitement, but discipline seeks results. Discipline prioritizes long-term outcomes over short-term feelings. This perspective allows sacrifices today to be seen as investments rather than losses. Over time, these investments compound into freedom and control. Discipline also strengthens emotional regulation. Acting in alignment with standards instead of feelings trains the mind to stay stable under pressure. This stability creates clarity, and clarity improves the quality of decisions and actions. Discipline does not eliminate motivation, it outlasts it. Motivation may come and go, but discipline ensures progress continues regardless of emotional state, turning consistency into the most powerful advantage available. Internal standards quietly dictate the level of results a person experiences long before outcomes become visible. What you accept internally becomes the blueprint for what shows up externally. When standards are low, effort becomes casual and results reflect that looseness. When standards rise, behavior tightens, decisions sharpen, and outcomes begin to change without needing external pressure. External circumstances rarely improve on their own. They respond to the expectations you enforce within yourself. If you tolerate inconsistency, life mirrors that tolerance with unstable results. If you demand excellence in your thoughts, habits, and execution, life is forced to adjust to meet that demand. Standards act as an internal thermostat, setting the conditions for performance and progress. Internal standards influence how you act when no one is watching. They determine whether you follow through or make excuses, whether you push slightly further or stop at convenience. Results are created in these private moments, not in public declarations. The discipline practiced in isolation becomes the confidence displayed in public. When internal standards rise, excuses lose credibility. You stop negotiating with discomfort and start moving through it. This shift creates momentum because actions are no longer dependent on external validation or immediate reward. Progress becomes self-driven and consistent. Low standards invite chaos because they allow emotion to override structure. High standards create order because they prioritize principle over impulse. This order simplifies decision-making, reducing mental friction and increasing efficiency. With clarity comes speed, and with speed comes measurable advancement. Internal standards also shape self-respect. Each time you honor a commitment to yourself, trust strengthens. This trust becomes the foundation for confidence, allowing you to take bigger actions without hesitation. When self-trust is strong, external opportunities are handled with competence rather than fear. Raising standards does not require perfection, it requires honesty. It means acknowledging where effort has been optional and choosing to make it non-negotiable. This honesty creates alignment between intention and behavior, closing the gap between potential and performance. As standards rise, your environment often resists at first. Familiar patterns, relationships, and routines may no longer fit. This resistance is a sign of growth, not conflict. External shifts follow internal upgrades, even when they feel uncomfortable initially. Internal standards determine how you respond to failure. With low standards, failure becomes a stopping point. With high standards, failure becomes data. This perspective transforms setbacks into feedback, allowing learning to accelerate rather than confidence to collapse. The quality of your results will never consistently exceed the standards you enforce within yourself, because life aligns with what you demand through action, discipline, and consistency. Internal standards shape external results because the outer world responds to what you consistently require of yourself. Results do not rise to the level of desire, they settle at the level of expectation, enforced through behavior. When internal standards are casual, effort becomes inconsistent and outcomes reflect that lack of precision. When standards are elevated, actions become deliberate and results begin to change without needing external motivation. External results are never random. They are the visible evidence of invisible rules you live by. How early you wake up, how focused you stay, how much effort you give when progress feels slow all stem from internal agreements you have already made with yourself. These agreements quietly dictate performance long before success or failure becomes obvious. When internal standards are low, comfort becomes the priority. Decisions are made based on ease rather than effectiveness. This creates results that feel frustrating yet familiar. Raising standards shifts decision-making from convenience to commitment, forcing actions that stretch ability and expand capacity. External results improve when excuses are no longer tolerated internally. Each time you choose discipline over justification, standards rise. This internal shift removes emotional loopholes and replaces them with structure. Structure produces consistency, and consistency produces results that compound over time. Internal standards determine how seriously you take your own goals. If standards are flexible, goals remain optional. If standards are firm, goals become non-negotiable. The external world responds to this seriousness by offering clearer opportunities, stronger momentum, and more predictable progress. Raising internal standards also sharpens focus. When you expect more from yourself, distractions lose their appeal. Time is used intentionally rather than emotionally. This efficiency accelerates results because energy is no longer wasted on activities that do not align with purpose. External results often lag behind internal change, which causes many people to quit too early. Standards must be held before results catch up. This delay tests commitment, revealing whether standards are temporary intentions or permanent principles. Those who hold the line internally eventually see the shift externally. Internal standards shape how you respond to pressure. With low standards, pressure causes retreat. With high standards, pressure triggers execution. This response difference determines whether challenges reduce momentum or increase capability. External results mirror this internal resilience. As standards rise, behavior becomes cleaner, procrastination decreases, follow-through improves, and decision-making speeds up. These subtle shifts create visible outcomes over time, even without dramatic effort. External success is often the byproduct of internal precision applied consistently. External results will always reflect the version of yourself you are willing to maintain daily, because life aligns not with what you want occasionally, but with what you demand of yourself repeatedly through action, discipline, and consistency. Quiet execution creates loud results, because progress accelerates when energy is used for building instead of broadcasting. Talking about plans often provides emotional relief without producing real movement. When work is done silently, attention stays on execution and momentum remains uninterrupted. Results become louder because they are fueled by action rather than announcement. Public intention can create pressure to perform for approval instead of progress. Quiet execution removes the need for validation and allows focus to remain on improvement. Without an audience, effort becomes honest and consistent. This consistency compounds into outcomes that eventually speak for themselves. Silence protects strategy. When plans are shared too early, they invite opinions, doubt, and distraction. Quiet execution keeps vision intact and prevents outside noise from influencing direction. This protection allows ideas to mature fully before being exposed to external judgment. Quiet work builds discipline. Showing up daily without recognition strengthens internal commitment. This form of discipline creates resilience because it is not dependent on praise or encouragement. Over time, this resilience becomes a competitive advantage that separates sustained performers from those who rely on motivation. External results become louder when they are unexpected. Silent growth creates surprise, while constant talking creates anticipation. When progress is unseen, the final outcome carries more weight. Results gain credibility because they arrive without explanation or hype. Quiet execution also sharpens focus. Without the distraction of constant updates or comparisons, attention remains on the process. This depth of focus improves skill, decision-making, and efficiency. Better processes naturally produce stronger external results. Silence reduces emotional leakage. Explaining plans or struggles often drains energy that could be used to move forward. Quiet execution preserves this energy, allowing it to be reinvested into action. This efficiency accelerates progress without requiring extra effort. When execution is quiet, mistakes are handled privately and corrected quickly. There is no need to defend missteps or manage perceptions. This freedom allows learning to happen faster and improvement to remain continuous. External results improve because adjustments are made without ego. Quiet execution builds confidence internally before it is displayed externally. Confidence earned through consistent action is stable and unshakable. When results finally appear, they carry the weight of preparation rather than the fragility of performance. The loudest results often come from the quietest periods of work, where focus is uninterrupted, discipline is consistent, and progress compounds beyond what noise and attention could ever produce.